Okay, today we're going to be talking about inquiry learning, specifically how it relates to the science classroom, and possibly some ideas for action research. So first of all, what is inquiry learning? Well, inquiry learning is where the students are asking the questions that drive the activity. The teacher is a learner right along with the students, and it honors the previous knowledge a student has. So, how does inquiry learning work? Well, the students are more involved. It's not just answering questions from a textbook, it's finding solutions to problems. The student has a bigger hand in the learning process than the teacher. The teacher really is a bystander, a coach, and a guide to help students solve the problems that they have come up with. No longer is it memorization of facts, but it is asking questions. And that's actually the biggest shift that a teacher needs to make in incorporating inquiry learning, is to really learn what are the questions that I need to ask my students. Some examples that you might ask would, in a situation of an activity, would be, what does it make you wonder? Or how do we know the answers? Or what challenges might we encounter if we do it that way? The other thing is that you do have to leave time for exploration. It's not just here's a step-by-step activity, but you do have to give students time to explore. There are actually 3 levels of inquiry labs. The first one is a very structured activity where the teacher gives the materials, the questions, the procedure, and students follow the directions. The next level is a guided activity where the teacher may give the questions and the materials, but students come up with more of the procedures and the solutions. And then the ultimate example of inquiry is student initiated, where students have some background knowledge and they are the ones coming up with their own questions and then coming up with a procedure and materials to find the solution. So who's doing this? Well, actually, we're all doing it, and we've been doing it since birth. We constantly use the 5 senses to quest for knowledge about the world around us. The first recorded example of an educator using inquiry learning was actually Socrates way back in 420 BC. He asked open-ended questions, allowed investigations, and made student-centered learning in his classroom. Another leader in inquiry learning is 4-H. Their motto is learn by doing. They actually have 3 YouTube videos that give great instruction on how to incorporate inquiry and how to facilitate it in the classroom. So, why is this significant in the classroom today? Well, first of all, if you just give students facts, most of them can pass the test, but that's really not what our mission is as an educator. We really want to give students a love of learning so that throughout their lifetime they know how to solve problems and they enjoy the learning process. Students in inquiry learning are looking for solutions, not just answers to questions. The other reason this is significant is that it is a major part of the essential science standards. It's actually in the very beginning, the preface to all of the standards, that inquiry-based learning is essential to be successful. It's also in the next generation science standards, which will be adopted in most states in the United States in the next couple of years. So what are the downsides? Well, there really aren't any downsides to inquiry learning because it is so important for our daily lives, but there are some challenges in today's classroom. Many teachers fear inquiry learning because they feel like they're going to lose control in their classrooms if students are in charge of the process and they are not telling students exactly what to do. It is a shift in thinking for teachers that can be made gradually, and this is actually a great opportunity for action research because many teachers will want to take baby steps and constantly reflect on how this is going until they master inquiry learning in their classrooms. All teachers can do it, it's just a learning process. one of the misconceptions about inquiry learning is that it means just providing hands-on activities. But some hands-on activities are not minds-on. So it is important to look at your activities and make sure that they are actually inquiry and not just fun craft-like activities. Incorporating inquiry learning is an art. There's not a step-by-step procedure that guarantees that it will be inquiry based. It is not an act, but you do have to learn the skills to make it successful. Some teachers will ask the questions, well, when do I just tell them the answers? When do I tell them how to do something? And so this again is also part of the art of it. They will need some background knowledge, they will need some vocabulary. It does need to be staggered in terms of the curiosity factor, but again, that is where action research can be incredibly beneficial for this topic. Another challenge for incorporating inquiry learning is allowing enough time. Students will get to the solutions in different rates. It's also a temptation for teachers to want to just fix things. If students aren't getting there on their own, it's easy to want to just help them, but it is important to refrain from that so that they really do use their minds and think and learn to problem solve. And so, when should this be used in the classroom? Well, the National Research Council has defined 5 steps to inquiry learning. And so anytime that you can allow a student to ask a question and then find evidence to support a solution, be able to give an explanation, draw connections to other subjects or their daily lives, and then communicate and justify their answers, then it is definitely grounds for incorporating inquiry learning. This may look a little bit like the steps to the scientific process, and it's actually supposed to. One thing you can do is look at your current activities and see if they may need an inquiry makeover. If they're cookbook labs, just step-by-step procedure that a student will follow and they can kind of look at the end and already know what's going to happen before they start, then it's really just a confirmation proving that what the teacher said is true. So what you want to do is try to take those activities and create a more inquiry-based lesson that includes problem solving, asking questions, and creating an investigation to find the solutions. There are baby steps that a teacher can take with an activity just to add a little more inquiry without making it a full-blown student-initiated investigation. Just mixing up the procedure steps is one way to make students really think a little more about how to solve the problem, or just including the data table or only giving the problem statement. A classic activity done in elementary and middle school classrooms is talking about insulation. So the old school cookbook way to do it is to provide jars and thermometers and have all the questions, the background information, the materials, the procedure, and the students just go step by step. You can make it a little more inquiry by taking out a few of those and providing the question, some materials, a data table, and discussion. But the ultimate inquiry activity for this is just to simply ask the questions. What steps would you take to determine what the best materials are that are insulators, and then what materials would you use, and maybe what challenges would you encounter, and let the students develop the activity, the procedure, the materials, and then come to their own conclusions. So lastly, what are the implications for education? Well, mainly it is a model of real life. It's the real cycle of learning. Asking a question and then realizing what tools you need to find to get the answers. This is the cycle that students will go through no matter what profession or direction their life takes. And ultimately, it is incorporated in all of our current educational movements, 21st century skills, Common Core, and it increases rigor in the classroom. So I hope that you've learned a lot about inquiry and are inspired to include it in your classroom.